there are clearly people cutting onions at the exact same time all around me. Hello, everyone. Terrence here with Hollywood Already Did It. If you haven't already, go ahead and like, share, subscribe to the channel, ring that bell below. Anytime we have something, you will be among the first to know. Perfect timing, kismic energy. Kevin Hart's an opportunity. So when you see the stars align, he's like, hey, it's Father's Day. They don't have enough films about fathers. Let's create one. Fatherhood drops for Netflix, starring Kevin Hart as the lead with Alfre Woodard in a supporting role. We're getting our another taste or foot dipping, if you would, for Kevin Hart into the dramatic world. He got a little bit of the upside, but he was more of the comedic part of that movie where Cranston was holding down the drama. In this film, he's doing all the dramatic stuff, and he's very subdued and not most of the. You don't get most of the typical Kevin Hart shtick where his voice is cracking, going high, and he's freaking out and doing movements. He's very subdued and reserved, and it makes for a very powerful performance in a really well done flick. In this movie, he plays a character named Matt, whose wife dies during childbirth, and so he has to deal with the loss of the love of his life, who he married from high school to college. That was his sweetheart, but also being a father, a brand new father, not knowing what the hell he's doing, and not quite having all of his shit together. So it's a little bit of balancing all of that while still being grief stricken, and it's takes a pretty open and honest look at how someone would have to deal with that, while also having to deal with the in-laws or grandparents, because they also are at a loss. They lost their daughter, and they're trying to still have some type of connection to their granddaughter. Like I said, it's played off really well. Kevin Hart handles all of this, and I think and this happens a lot of times with comedic actors who start doing drama or handling drama, because they can handle comedy and make people laugh. They got a really good sense of when to turn it on and when to turn it off, just because they command audiences and they've been doing it for so long that when you do drama, it's a lot more subdued. He sprinkles in elements of comedy and moments that just feel more human. And so I never think Kevin Hart is ever going to be this world renowned, knocking down the doors, best actor type of person. But I do think, depending on the roles, depending on the director, I feel like he and this director clicked and just got what they want. He can create more humane character that is just in certain situations a lot more believable than you would somebody who's putting on this tour de force acting performance. So kudos to him in this. Alfre Woodard had me multiple times just bawling. Like some of the interactions she has as somebody who's lost her daughter is just like, oh, this is gut wrenching, and trying to have some type of connection. Just her as somebody who has lost someone close to them, her saying she for the longest would just sit in that room for what we used to be crippling for days, and then had to turn it down to hours just so she could get her life back. That's all real, and it all feels good, and it's just all feels earned and feels coming from an honest place, and it's heartfelt and it's painful. And I think there's the added thing of him trying to get his life together and seeing if he can do the job that he wants to do while also raising a kid, while also trying to get his life together, see if he should get it back out there to date. And I think DeWanda Wise comes in a small supporting character, because it's more about the father and daughter, but it's also about him establishing a new connection with a new woman that he may have to introduce to his daughter. I think DeWanda Wise as Swan is pitch perfect. She's great. And I would hope, I know it's not always the case with single fathers or the single mothers trying to bring in someone else. I would hope that all the people that are dealt with in far as that connecting families together, or connecting a single parent and their kid to another person, that the other person is as endearing and as comfortable and as understanding as Swan was in this film. I feel like that may be the case, but I don't think it always works that easy, and it just seems a bit too simple. But because it feels so earned, and he responds the way he does when he's not there because he's hanging out with her, I think it all comes together and gels pretty well. The one thing that I think the film does a little too much, there's a couple of scenes, and when you have somebody like Kevin Hart, you have somebody like Little Rel, you sometimes have scenes that go on for too long or aren't even necessary. There's a sequence in here specific that I just can think of. It's like for a film that's it's hour and 53 minutes, so it's long. You don't really feel it, but there are moments when you're like, that scene doesn't feel like it was necessary to anything that the rest of this movie was doing. I think if you took this out, you'd still be fine. For those who've seen it, I'm speaking specifically about the sequence in the grocery store where they're buying a bunch of kid gifts, and there's an interaction between Lil Rel and the cash register woman who was quasi flirting, and Matt cock blocks. It's funny. It's endearing to their relationship, but I don't think their relationship needed to be any strengthened or any stronger because we can sort of see that in other sequences. You just pull that out of it, and I don't think it really does anything else to the rest of the film. The film is still held up, so that's like 5 to 8 minutes you just shave off right there. You start getting back to that 140, 135 range. Again, doesn't hurt the film. Film's pacing and all that feels fine, but there are a couple of scenes like that where you're like, hey, if we just pull back on that, pull back on that, pull back on that, we have a shorter in and out type of film. But even with that, my scale of once is enough, play it again, Sam, or give me a time stone so I never have to think about this film again. This is a play it again, Sam. I think there needs to be both more films about fatherhood and around Father's Day. We need some of those films that we can just pop in every Father's Day and be like, hey, this is a good film about fathers. But I also think it's very important that we have films that show black fathers and fathers of color representing and being single dads and stepping up to the plate to be the fathers that that we all know that there are out there, but they don't always get depicted in film and television. So kudos to Kevin Hart for making this done. Kudos to Netflix for releasing it. It's a really powerful little flick, and I hope that everybody takes a chance to look at it. The young lady who plays Maddy is so cute and so adorable, and has some great interactions with Kevin Hart. And you can tell there's one scene that I know the way that Kevin Hart laughs when he can't stop laughing when someone makes him laugh. There's a scene when they're playing like slaps, which if anybody ever done that with your kids, you're trying to get them to look at that way you slap their hands. She does that to him, and you can tell that scene is very genuine, that he is just bawling and can't stop laughing. I love that type of stuff because it feels like these guys in this 4 or 5 person film created sort of a tight knit bond, and you feel it while you're watching it. What did you guys think about Fatherhood? Go ahead and leave your thoughts in the comments below. If you haven't already, go ahead and follow us on Twitter at HollywoodADI. You can hit us up on email at HollywoodAlreadyDidIt@gmail.com. We also have a podcast with the same name that's on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere that plays podcasts. We're there. We are currently doing Marvel pair-ups with Loki, and we're looking at time travel movies and shows. And we're doing that with guest host Jamie Jurek. And we're also doing our classic show as well. You can find that also here on YouTube or wherever podcasts are played. And I believe this week we are talking about The Hitman Wives Bodyguard. And yeah, that's going to be a fun one. But like always, I got my ticket. You got yours.